All right. Good morning, everybody. Today is Wednesday, January 13th, 2016. And this is Before the First Cup with Jules here on UCY.TV. Happy Wednesday, everybody. We're halfway. That's what I told my kid this morning. I'm like, have a good Wednesday, honey. We're halfway. It is 19 degrees and we are under a lake effect snow advisory here in upstate New York. Looks pretty sunny out today, but, got a couple inches last night. Not too bad. Just very crispy. So where do we leave off? Yesterday we titled the show DARPA Brain Stimulators, Genetically Modified Animals, Humans, and Clones. Oh my. I didn't put the oh my in there, but I should have. There was not enough room. We talked about some very, very disturbing projects that are going on right now in regards to DARPA and brain implants being able to produce certain chemicals in the brain, such as dopamine. We had also read about that new consumer electronic that will produce dopamine and oxytocin. You know, oxytocin is not only the love chemical, but it's also another one of those addictive chemicals. And I was digging into it yesterday, and I think I need to do more because they've been doing some research into oxytocin. And one of the things that they seem to have discovered is that when you don't get enough oxytocin as a child, they think that it could lead to some addiction in adult life. And let's not get into that right now, but I really started thinking about a lot of cases, individuals and situations throughout my life where there have been issues where I've known, from like the beginning stages of the mother on up. And, there could be some merit there. I need to dig into that, but that was pretty interesting. But anyway, yes, push a button and be able to produce brain chemicals is going to be on our 2016 future. So how exciting is that? And, we'll be able to mind control computer devices. I did tell my husband too that they are planning on releasing a developer's kit for some of the mind control units. So I don't know if it's not a lot of money, it probably will be, but if it's not a lot of money, we can get it like for a few bucks. We might actually get one and see if we can start building mind control apps for the house. But I won't be the one wearing the headband. All right. So anyway, we looked at clones. We looked at genetic modification. We looked at some of the stuff that they were doing with animals, namely cows. They also had dogs, pet dogs. If you want to clone Rover for $100,000, well, hey, there's a Chinese man that'll take your money. They also are working on genetically modifying pigs, which I read that story before, but I hadn't read the part about them having some sort of smelly meat. So they're genetically modifying the male pigs so they don't have smelly meat anymore. They're genetically modifying some of the cows up at UC Davis. So this wasn't just the Chinese clone factory. UC Davis just received some cows that they're working with, and they were modifying the gene that had to do with horn growing because by getting rid of the horns on the dairy cows, who knew that dairy cows had horns? I don't know. I didn't. I guess they got to hack them off, and it's pretty painful, and it's expensive. So they figured it'll just be a benefit to all of us if they just tweak the genes a little bit so the horns don't grow, and then they can pack them in even tighter in the storage units, in the pens, and in the train cars going to market. But what's really disturbing is at the very end, we hit on not only the Chinese factory guy with the clones talking about how he already has the technology to clone humans, and all it's going to take is people with money at some point in the future. And, as long as people don't freak out about it, he's ready to go ahead and do it. And he's equipped right now to start pumping out 100,000 cows a year. Soon to be 1 million is the plan. And when they say go, he's like, hey, as soon as they tell us we can start modifying humans, we can start doing it. And how disturbing is that? Because we discussed once that begins happening, and I know there was an international conference in regards to CRISPR, And in regards to the ethics of all of this mad science gone mad, one of the things they decided is no, we are not going to allow you to genetically modify humans. But, like I said, there's the front room and then there's the back room. And we know that there have been all kinds of psycho experiments that have been going on for many, many, many years without anybody's knowledge. And then 20 years later, they're like, oh, yeah, we've been doing that for years. Like, I don't know, GMO food in the marketplace that we've been consuming, right? They've been doing exactly that. So, yeah, the very last story, though, was talking about You're Only Human. And I think that's where we're going to kick this one off. You're only human, but your kids could be so much more, right? I mean, this is all about future generations and what the capabilities are going to be from a pre-birth genetic modification. And here's the slippery slope. The slippery slope is, if your kid is the one kid that doesn't get genetically modified, and all the other children have been augmented for superior thinking power or artistic ability or whatever, you and your children are going to be the lower class. We are going to be the ones with lesser intelligence, with lesser artistic ability, with lesser ability to, sprout wings and fly, whatever. We will be 1.0 version of old. And peer pressure, this is what I'm afraid of. Peer pressure is a very, very strong motivator. And we've seen it already with a lot of different issues. They're using it right now to kind of take people who maybe we were breaking through to with some of the issues that we really kind of pound on, like GMO foods or vaccines or geoengineering, things of that nature. They really have gone out of their way to push the agenda to make us look like we are troublemakers. They are connecting all these dots that we are anti-science, we are troublemakers, we are insurgents, we are gun-loving, gun-toting lunatics, right? To be able to discredit us in the eyes of those who were just starting to go, hey, maybe they got a point. And a friend and I were talking last night, and here's something very interesting. And, I thought this in the beginning, and then I got caught up in it myself. So I'm going to say it's very easy. But I was brought back to earth yesterday because think about this. The X-Files. The X-Files are coming back now on the 24th, right? I was just so excited. I was probably one of the biggest X-Files fans ever in the early 90s. I love Mulder. And when I saw it was coming back, I was like, oh my God, this is so great. And I watched a couple trailers and Chris Carter's on there saying, yeah, well, we're coming back now because like everything we talked about is really coming true. And I was like, wow, that's totally cool. And so I'm reading one of the articles about it a few weeks ago. And it's talking about the character in there that's the conspiracy theorist. Now, I got to tell you, my friend messages me last night and he says, they're making a character about Alex Jones in the X-Files. I'm like, no, they're not. No, they're not. If you read the article, what it actually says is that they made a conglomerate. The reporter is a conglomerate of Alex Jones, Glenn Beck, and Bill O'Reilly. Now, Alex apparently was going on and on and on, all proud of himself that, he's made such a difference in the world that they're making a character in the new X-Files series that's supposed to be him about all the stuff he talks about. But I'm telling you what, if you read the story, the article, I think it was Entertainment Weekly that put it out. If you read the story, what it says to me is that they're making this conspiracy theory dude, this radio reporter host, who also believes in UFOs and all the other crazy stuff that has discredited any conspiracy theorist over the last 50 years. They're making this guy a conglomerate of three of the most obnoxious talk show hosts out there. And then at the very end of the show, apparently anything, like he sucks Mulder into it, but apparently anything that he's talked about and all the conspiracy theories, nobody in the end believes. I think my friend is correct. This is to take all those sci-fi people, all those people that even might be half woken up, and when they suck them into the show and get them all talking about now government surveillance, because they're taking all of our topics, geoengineering in the sky. They're taking all of our topics and they're putting them into this new X-Files series. I think it's only 6 episodes. They're going to get all these people seeing this and then tying it to this character who then is also chasing after UFOs and talking about all kinds of other crazy shit and acting like a nutty Alex Jones, Glenn Beck, Bill O'Reilly conglomerate. That's going to chop the entire movement off at the knees. It's going to take a big black Sharpie line once the series is over for anybody who was out there on the fence in popular culture who watched the new X-Files and make them say, oh, you believe in chemtrails? You're one of those lunatic conspiracy theorists like I saw in the X-Files. Like he's putting another tinfoil hat back on us and twisting up little pointy things on the edges and on top. And you know, the sad fact of the matter is I got sucked right in. I was like, oh my God, X-Files. I totally missed what they're doing. But you know, here's Jones saying, oh, it's about time. You know, 10 years ago, Chris Carter wanted to be able to do his series again and they wouldn't let him. But now that it's all come out that they're surveilling us, it's time. They're letting him talk the truth. That isn't what's happening. It's time to shut us up and make us all look like idiots. And that's about what they're ready to do. Don't forget, that's what pop culture is being used to do right now, is to completely brainwash the masses. So anyway, that was just a side note. That came up in some long discussion yesterday, and I was like, wow, I've been duped again. Damn! You know, I don't know. It's those cute guys. They do it to me every time. All right. So anyway, let's get back here. You're only human, but your kids could be so much more. We talked about this yesterday. We got through about half the story, but I think we might have to blow through here again because this brings up a lot of other issues. And I see that they even bring up 23andMe. We haven't talked about them in a long time. All right. Have you ever wished that there was something different about yourself, or maybe imagine yourself as taller, thinner, stronger? Well, who hasn't? Smarter, more attractive, and healthier? Well, who hasn't? How about younger? I'd be good for younger. Or perhaps, as much as you love your children, you wish that there was something different about them. Well, it is not the love that is missing, but it is precisely because you love them that you imagine that they would be happier if they were different in some way. You know, what kind of a sick thing is that to say? You should be happy with yourself. Isn't that what they teach you? And always being unhappy with yourself is a root to many years of sadness and loneliness. So that's kind of silly. Feeling like your kid could be better, accept it, deal with it, man. It says it's also possible that some form of genetic disease runs in your family, or a predisposition to cancer, Alzheimer's, or some other potentially terrible health problem. And until recently, and you know, here's another scary thing. As they're digging more and more into the genetics of humans, they're discovering that it's not just like genetic diseases that are caused by genetics. Hey, we have personality types, we have addictions, we have all kinds of stuff that can be tied to our genetics. So careful what you ask for, because as they identify where these genes are and they start editing humans, if they aren't already, like I said, I'm sure if you have enough money and you know the right people, there's a backdoor room that you can go into and get some stuff taken care of. But as they start identifying more and more genes and where they are and what they do and how the brain works and all these other secrets of nature, secrets of God that we didn't have as humans before, you know, we've talked before about how they're going to be able to determine whether or not in the future some of us are better breeding stock than others. Right? They've discovered that by drinking too much or not sleeping enough or eating sugary foods, having pizza on Friday, drinking a few beers, all causes genetic damage. Oh, being too stressed out. Well, more genetic damage. How long is it going to be before they start deciding whose lineage gets to move into the future? And not that they haven't already been giving preferential treatment to, of course, the rich families that pass down bazillions of dollars, generation after generation. But we might discover that there will be those of us and our future children who won't be allowed to procreate. Our bodies will be so polluted with whatever they're dumping into the environment and our food and the water and air and everything else that we won't be able to procreate. Oh, what? That Syngenta pesticide screwed up your fallopian tubes? Well, hey, we only saw that in frogs for 20 years, but you know what? That had nothing to do with humans or what happened to you. I don't know. Maybe it's a genetic disease. You can't have kids anymore. But you're seeing that more and more. In vitro fertilization was something you didn't see a lot when I was a kid. But now, I got to tell you how many friends. It's like, oh, yeah, I went to the doctor, and this bothers me so bad. You know what? If you can't have a kid on your own, then you shouldn't have a kid. But you know what? The OBGYNs out there are running around saying, oh, you want to have a child? Hey, it doesn't matter if you're not healthy enough or not economically sound enough or not mentally sound enough to have a kid. You know what? You got insurance. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to start shooting you up with all the hormones. And then we're going to get those eggs and mix them up in a Petri dish. And we're going to IVF you all the way. And I know people who have kids now, and that's exactly what happened. They should have never had kids. They, I was smart. I didn't have a kid until I was almost 40. I didn't get married until I was almost 35. And you know why? Because I was single, I was working, I had my own house, I did my own thing, I put some money away. I made sure that before I ever settled down, had a kid and got married, I had money, I had a house, I did my traveling and whatever else I wanted to do. So by the time that happened, I'm still not, you're never ready. But by the time that happens, I had a really good base laid down, especially if you have a choice. I had a good base laid down to make that happen. But when you're 22 years old and you got an OBGYN because you're like, I want to have a baby and get married, because you're stupid and you don't know any better. At 21, nobody should have children and get married. And, that's what they did when my mother was young. How stupid is that? 21 years old, get married and have a baby. And then by the time you're 30, you're like, oh my God, what did I do? Those were some of the best years of my life from 21 to 38. Why would you tie yourself down? And I love my daughter upside down and sideways, but you know what? It's very difficult. Yeah, for as much as I always told my friends, oh yeah, you know what? It's just like having a cat. And they're like, no, it isn't, Jill. Well, I'd have to say my friends are right. Anyway, so yeah, there will come a point in the future where they're going to decide there is no more IVF for everybody. They're not going to be stabbing you with hormones just because you have insurance. Because guess what? None of us will have insurance. Or maybe we will, but it will be enforced insurance with your biometrics. It says until recently, you wouldn't have been able to do very little if there was some sort of terrible health problem in your family lineage. But if anything about these situations, thoughts, and feelings, however, that might soon change. And while you might not be able to fundamentally transform yourself or your existing children in the near future, you might just be able to play God with your own new little creations. Ding, ding, ding. And it's just this for anybody who's become a parent. If you thought back to how when that child was first born, that overwhelming wave of oxytocin, and it does happen, and wow, talk about a strong chemical. I'd never really experienced that before. But with that mama bear chemical flowing through your bones, how could you have them start snipping DNA and twisting things up and mixing it up and hoping for the best. This to me is horrifying. This really is the stuff of nightmares. It says think of it as a personal kind of experiment. Technology that is already available today may well make this experimentation possible for anyone who can pay the price. There you go. To make a new person, and only one that is hoped to be better. I mean, a designer baby. You literally would be designing and producing a new type of baby via the same sorts of technologies as Monsanto is using. I mean, when they say that should make anybody who doesn't quite get it go, what? What? My baby? Monsanto? Oh. Yes, it's the same sort of technology that Monsanto is using. Same technology used to make a genetically modified tomato, mouse, or monkey, and the baby would be a genetically modified human. Or to phrase it in an edgier manner, a GM human. But would it be legal? Well, yes, in some places. But ethical? Well, it's hard to say. Risky? Yes, definitely. But regardless of such thorny issues, it would technically be feasible to attempt. And you can bet that someone will try to do it in the coming years. And I'm going to tell you, we already know back, when did I find that story? 3-4 years ago. In England, they had like 300 human animal chimeras growing in Petri dishes. So you know that they've been messing around. You know, they've already in China genetically spliced human breast milk DNA into milk cows, right? I mean, they've done that already. I was just reading about that. They're thinking they were waiting for approval to try that on citizens. And, you know, it makes you wonder, though, how much of that milk already made it out into the food chain in China, because that's where they were doing that experiment. You know, communist country, I don't think they have any type of requirement for food labeling in China. All right. You know, this story is beyond annoying here because it's got ads on it, and they must be flash ads, and so Flash is crashing every like minute or maybe even 30 seconds, so the page doesn't scroll. And I think I'm stuck now. I don't know. We might have to skip the whole section of the story that's stuck up top. Oh well. It says playing God via genetically change. Now it scrolled me all the way up. Jesus. I have to tell you, all the browsers are screwed up. I don't know if anybody's noticed that, but IE is about dead. I mean, it is so impossible to use 99% of the time that I only use it when it is an emergency or I have no other way to get to something. Chrome has had Flash problems for months now. Where I come out here, I have tabs lined up to do like the next 3 days of shows. And I lose half of them because everything is dead and crashing on me. And Firefox has this script error that pops up that locks everything up. Oh, yeah, look now, page unresponsive. And all three browsers are having major usability issues now on all my machines. And it's almost impossible even to do the internet, to do any type of research. And wow, how convenient is that? Anyway, let's finish this shit because I got like 7 stories and now the show is half over. So, would blah, 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 blah. Oh, Jesus. Hold on. Now I'm stuck in a spot we already read and I don't want to read it again for the 3rd time. Otherwise, we're skipping this. And you can just use your horrific imaginations to think about it. And you know what? I think it's over for you. I was going to promote your website, but I guess you lose. Get rid of your shitty ads. Come on. I wanted to get into 23andMe. You know what? Hold on. Wow, is this irritating? You know, this is the reason at some point where I decide, like, when the alarm goes off, and I'm like, do I really? And remember, I was in tech for 25 years. I dealt with bullshit tech problems for my entire adult life. And one of the reasons why I don't do support and stuff anymore is because I hate computers that don't work right. It didn't used to be this way. If there was a problem, it was my fault, usually. Come on. You know what? I got to totally skip it. I can't even, Skype doesn't open. Skype won't go online. I can't get it to copy. This just totally ruins every show every time it does this. Oh, look. Now it won't load any page of any story because it crashed Flash. And full reboot, by the way, 10 minutes before the show started. I had to take all the links, put them into a document, reboot the whole thing. And this is the new machine. I mean, new within a year, but there's nothing on here. There's nothing even open except for Chrome on this machine. That's it. And my 5 tabs to do the show. That is it. Brand new, fresh reboot, and it can't even keep itself running. It's unbelievable. Not responding. I'm going to have to do music again, guys. I hate doing the Lonely Elephant. What was the other tune we were singing the other day? Oh, my God. This is beyond aggravating. You guys remember that one day I got so aggravated I said I'm done. I can't do any more show. I put a reprod on. It's about where it's at right now. I can't even believe that nothing is loading. All right, you know what? Firefox is going to tell you to go fuck off, Chrome. Let's open it up. I'm not standing for this. Wow. Nothing is opening. Nothing. Even the one, so I'm like, okay, all right, look, Skype is all set. I'm going to click on it really quick and send myself the link on the other machine. Nope. Second I touch it, Skype goes into not responding mode. Are you kidding me? Well, I'm totally locked up here for everything. Every link, every browser. Oh, now I got a black screen. Oh, I got a mouse zipping around all by itself. What is going on? This just bites right in the ass. You know what, guys? I think I'm going to take tomorrow off. I just can't deal with this. I want to smash this machine. User account control. No. What is going on here? I'm going to edit this show and cut this out for the 5 o'clock rebroad. This pisses me off. I don't do a show if it's a piece of shit. Because then it's not even worth me getting up in the morning. You know what I mean? And I really hate unprofessional shows. I hate when I hear it. I hate when I hear hosts doing this exact same thing. And I even sometimes put nasty comments in chats. So when it happens to me, it makes me even more aggravated. All right. We got it open now in Firefox. Let's see how long it is before Firefox now starts firing out errors. Just got to find my place again. Oh, this one has a big black rectangle in the middle of the screen. I guess I'm not in the mood anymore. Oh. Yeah. So this has totally lost its oomph and any meaning whatsoever. So blah, 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 blah. Should we genetically modify our eggs? Do we care? Well, it doesn't matter if we care because this is what they're going to be doing in the future. And they're going to put all kinds of whacked out shit in your kid. Playing God via genetically changing human creation is possible today by the marrying of two powerful technologies. One's old, called IVF, blah, blah, blah. The second one is new, called CRISPR-Cas9, blah, blah, blah. We talked about all that, which makes it remarkably simple to tinker with human genes. And when combined with IVF, these new genetic tools allow scientists to change the DNA, which is the blueprint of the human embryo, when it consists of just one or two cells. Your GMO Sapien, which is the nickname that they came up with, child may have to avoid a terrible disease because genetic technology was used to correct the disease-causing mutation in a critical gene, and your baby and you as its parent may have literally dodged cystic fibrosis or a mutation in a BRCA gene that puts women at risk for breast and ovarian cancer, just to mention a few. Yeah, notice how they mention those? And I discovered during my pregnancy, when they were doing all those tests, the genetic tests, that cystic fibrosis, you only get that, your child will only get that if both parents have the cystic fibrosis gene. If one parent has it, they won't. It becomes recessive, a recessive trait. The hypothetical GM, genetically modified baby girl born without a BRCA1 mutation, would not only have a different life, but she would also never pass the mutation onto anyone in her future family tree. Yes, let's make her better breeding stock. Let's edit everyone down. So for the future, we will have people without genetic disorders. I mean, this is pretty sick. To produce a GMO sapien baby, you would begin effectively by placing an order for him or her, and it would be a team effort between you and the scientists involved. And you might say it would take a village and a lab to make a GMO sapien. And in the same way today that you might order a customized pizza, what? With green olives, hold the onions, Italian ham, goat cheese, and a particular sauce. When you design and order your future GMO sapien baby, you could ask for very specific quote-unquote toppings. Oh, my God. Is that, you know what? I could see the marketing slick for this to be rolling it out to the dumb general public. Hey, pick your toppings now, please. Superior intelligence, superior running speeds, for $10,995 on a menu. It is. It's going to be a menu. Probably on your smartphone. Honey, I ordered the kid today. In this case, toppings would mean your choice of unique traits selected from a menu. They said it. Green eyes, hold the diseases. Italian person's genes for lean muscle. Fixed lactose intolerance so the designed individual can eat dairy. And a certain blood type. Does this sound outlandish? Well, the personal genetics company, 23andMe, has already put together what is essentially a baby genetic predictor tool. Now remember, the woman that is the CEO to 23andMe is the wife of Sergey Brin, co-founder of Google. Yes, Google, with other life sciences that now is working together. They're working on medicines. 23andMe actually spun off a division that is now working on medications based upon targeted genetic information that they're finding in these millions of people, just giving it up to the machine. And they are, too. Checking that box. You can use my genes for research, please. For example, the company has specifically written about how one might go about, such as a mother, selecting one's preference for green eyes and for a reduced risk for certain diseases by screening the sperm of potential donors for these traits. Another similar effort is underway from a company called Gene Peaks, co-founded by Professor Lee Silver of Princeton University, a proponent of human genetic modification. Gene Peaks has developed a technology called MatchRight, and this service is available at some fertility clinics. It enables customers to screen the sperm from possible donors. What? For how the genomes of these sperm, when combined with the customer's might lead to certain outcomes and possible future children. The search tool looks for both predicted disease risks and also specific inherited traits. After the design phase, the GM baby to be would go through a series of production steps, one or more, which might be completed outside of the womb in a laboratory. IVF, your in vitro fertilization, would play an important role. And since there are now currently scientists trying to produce artificial or laboratory produced human wombs, and wait till you hear what I found yesterday, it is even formally possible to do that. And actually, they were talking about a few months ago, they were doing the first womb transplant, I believe. And I think it was some woman who had something horrible happen, but they were saying how wonderful it would be because they could give wombs to men if they wanted them in the future, which I thought was pretty ludicrous since there's an entire circulatory system and stuff that's all involved. But whatever, you want to spend the money to have a womb implanted, I guess. So human reproduction could become a process nearly entirely independent of people. And we talked about this before. I think eventually, they're going to say, nah, there's no product manual with these kids and you guys are just popping them out everywhere. And now we have this, global warming problem is because of overpopulation, because that is what they're saying. We can't feed everybody, the CO2. So you know what? We're going to be like China. Nobody can reproduce now, and hey, it's all been in your food anyway. Don't worry about it. You guys have been getting the vaccines and eating the GMOs and breathing all that stuff we're spraying in the air and the pesticides. So, if it takes you 732 tries to get pregnant just once, we've done our job. You guys aren't breeding like rabbits anymore, but guess what? You can pay us and we'll give you a certification. I mean, it's going to be something like that in the future. You're going to have to be authorized to have children. In China was the one-child policy, and that caused a lot of horrible things. I read some really, really horrific stories. I mean, they all wanted boys because they wanted to be able to carry on the last name. But those poor little girls, the ones that didn't make it to adoption, and China has really kind of put a kibosh on that. I had a friend who for 8 years was trying to adopt a Chinese daughter, and it never happens. And it was just lots of heartbreak after heartbreak. But, I read horrible stories. I mean, they would take these baby girls and go leave them on top of mountains to die because it wasn't a boy. I mean, it's going to get to the point where you will not be able to procreate if you want to, and only those chosen with good genetic stock for the good of humanity's future will be able to use their card to go to the Ministry of Reproduction and get their cells and sperm all tinkered up, mixed in a petri dish and ready to rock and roll. Human reproduction could become a process nearly entirely independent of people, relying just on ourselves. Scientists, once they had our cells, could take it from there, so to speak. And not only would sex be unnecessary, ding, ding, but there would also be no physical parental involvement at all to produce a baby. Becoming a parent could turn almost into an intellectual exercise, a project. Instead of building a model airplane or a jigsaw puzzle with your kid as a project, you as a parent would do a model building exercise where your kid is the project. In place of plastic or glue or puzzle pieces, scientists would team up with you as the parent to make this new genetically modified child using your cells and genetic fabric as the starting material. The only other thing that you would need would be the money. Yes, right. And we saw that stress and lower income and all those things that us peons do that the rich people don't do, the shitty food, all causes damage to our DNA. So we, the ones without the money, are bad breeding stock already. I don't know how much more this story. Jesus, this is like 2 days on this one story. And if I didn't have that crash, probably would have been done. But my God, this just keeps going and going and going. I think we're going to have to skip the rest of this so we can move on. Maybe we'll hit the part 3 of this tomorrow. So anyway, horrible, horrible thoughts. Yes, we can create a genetically modified baby. Let's make sure we have the money. But then we can partner with our doctor. And don't worry, that pesky reproduction won't have to happen outside of the test tube anymore. Because they'll take care of it for you. You know, and it worries me that they have been taking cord blood samples, DNA samples from children. Try to remember, it was like 40 some odd states, and it might even be 50 by now, at birth. And they're putting them into a database. And they were saying, well, you know, they could be using it for identification purposes if the kid ever gets lost. But hey, we could also use it for, I don't know, FBI database, crime database. Hey, how about the DNA database? You know, once they got that cord blood and they have your cells, they could do anything they want. And we even saw way, way, way back when a woman who was able to recreate the faces of people who had chewed up a piece of chewing gum or left a cigarette butt on the ground. She could use her little DIY DNA kit in her garage and come up with a representation of what their face looked like. So imagine what some mad science lab could do if they actually had your blood or if they actually had your hair or whatever. All right, now I have browsers flashing between Chrome and Firefox, Chrome and Firefox, Chrome and Firefox, and everything is in not responding mode. They just don't want me to talk about this shit, I think. No, it's just, I'm ready to smash the crap out of this machine. All right, stop. January 9th, 2016. If this page now it's going to try and reload on me. Artificial pancreas trials to begin in the U.S. Yes, they are able now. They are able now to create pancreas. In the U.S., 125 million Americans suffer from diabetes, potentially debilitating and life-changing condition. Every year, more and more people are diagnosed, and only the common treatments are insulin injections. But now a research team is hoping to revolutionize diabetes treatment as they have developed an artificial pancreas that automatically detects changing blood sugar levels and administers insulin automatically, as announced by Harvard University. Yes, the home of the robo-bees. And you know, what's interesting, too, is that it automatically gives medication as it monitors your levels of sugar in your blood. I did not do the story, but during research a few days ago, I had run across a device that was developed here locally at the University of Rochester that actually uses some sort of live cell culture inside of a box that literally scans your blood for many, many different levels and can give medication at the correct dosages. And of course, right now, they're using it for chemotherapy patients so they can see the levels of the drug in their blood and be able to determine whether or not it's high or low. But think about the ramifications of being able to have some sort of device, whether it be implantable or external, but something that is monitoring your internal systems, something that's monitoring your blood levels of whatever. And then, Johnny, guess what? You didn't take your medication that makes you not care anymore. So we're going to make sure that we set that to auto inject or whatever, release it in your bloodstream. Well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do any more of the show here, guys. I have 4 windows open and none of them are working, and Skype is not working, and even Notepad Notepad is no longer working. I don't know what to do. I rebooted right before the show. I mean, this is a fresh reboot. I'm going to have to kill this machine. I really think so. I'm sorry, guys. I really think tomorrow I might have to take the day off because days like this really just make me not want to do this anymore. Right, maybe we can get this one up. I think that's a trumpet. Oh my God. Do 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 do. Before I hurt this computer, I'm gonna try one more thing. Now that the show is almost over and they've managed to completely derail everything I was talking about and the entire show. And I don't think I even posted this article yesterday. All right, scientists. So you know what? We can't read the pancreas one because it doesn't load, it doesn't scroll, but let's try this one. So they've created a pancreas, but hey, scientists have also started growing human fallopian tubes in the lab. This is the next step in reproductive health. And guess what? The story came out early hours of this morning, January 13, 2016, in ScienceAlert.com. Researchers in Germany have successfully grown the innermost layer of human fallopian tubes in the lab, a first step toward creating a functional model that will allow scientists to study how reproductive diseases such as cancer starts, as well as provide important insight into the enigmatic organs. The fallopian tubes play a crucial role for the female reproductive system by connecting the ovaries to the uterus, but recent research has suggested that if fallopian tubes become infected, they can migrate and could be a key trigger for ovarian cancer, one of the most deadly types of female reproductive cancers. Despite the importance of these organs, we have a lot to learn about how they function, particularly on the inside, which is an area that, as you can imagine, is particularly challenging for scientists to study while their patients are alive, which is why scientists from the Max Planck Institute for Infection Biology wanted to grow the mucous membrane epithelium that forms inside of the fallopian tubes in lab-grown replicas. Yeah, it's all about trying to figure out how you get cancer, not anything to do with being able to grow babies in a lab like we were just reading about. It's going to come in the future. No, it's all to make sure that we can cure your disease, Janie, or maybe Johnny. But by trying to grow human organs in the lab, it is notoriously difficult. First of all, you need to isolate and stimulate the organ's specific adult stem cells, which are cells capable of differentiating into all essential types of cells needed to regenerate and maintain the organ. In this case, the researchers used fallopian epithelial cells that had stem cell-like properties taken from tissue donors. If that doesn't sound hard enough, the researchers also had to try to replicate the environmental conditions inside the human body in order to get the stem cells to grow and develop into more complex structures. And I mean, I don't know, they're making this sound so difficult, but they've been growing 3D printed stem cell organs on some sort of sugar scaffolding for a while now. They've been experimenting with that with stem cells, and they're able to make stem cells out of your own skin cells now. So I don't know, guys. I think you're trying to go for some more research funding by making this sound so hard. I mean, I'm sure it's difficult, but it's not like they haven't been doing this stuff already and figured out ways to do it. The team has now kept the mini fallopian tubes alive in the lab for more than a year. Something we could only previously be done for a few days, and now they've already discovered two signaling pathways known as the Notch and the WNT that keep the fallopian tube stem cells regenerating the organ. And on top of helping us understand how the fallopian tubes grow and develop, what is more important is that this model could teach us in the future about reproductive health care and cancer in women. And of course, like I said, it's all about making sure that it's good for you and me, and they're going to cure our cancer, because step right up, we have this newfangled 21st century medicine that's just for you, if you can afford it. While it is not the purpose of this lab group, it is also worth keeping in mind that other lab-grown organs, such as kidneys and penises, are currently being tested for human transplantation potential. And I don't know, this article was just yesterday. They've already transplanted a penis as well. I've seen that one. I posted that on my WTF page months ago. But who knows, maybe one day we could see a lab-grown fallopian tube transplanted into women who are born without them, or those who lose them as a result of illness or injury. And yeah, I think it was a lab-grown womb that they had already transplanted as well. That surgery was probably a month ago or so. All right, here's another one. And we read about this one probably 2 or 3 months ago, but now it's coming out in MIT Technology Review, so people are finally going, Jules wasn't crazy. Let's start paying attention. Human animal chimeras are gestating on U.S. research farms. And yeah, we knew about this. They were growing organs using stem cells, that same stem cell scaffolding technology, yet they were growing them inside pigs. And remember, we read about that. They were your own organs grown inside pigs that they could then cut out and transplant. A new radical approach to generating human organs is to grow them inside pigs or sheep. Braving a funding ban put in place by America's top health agency, some U.S. research centers are moving ahead with attempts to grow human tissue inside pigs and sheep, with the goal of creating hearts, livers, or other organs needed for transplants. In an effort to incubate organs from in the farm animals, it is ethically charged because it involves adding human cells to the animal embryos in ways that could blur the lines between species. Last September, in a reversal of earlier policy, the National Institute of Health announced it would not support studies involving such human-animal chimeras until it had reviewed the scientific and social implications more closely. Well, freaking China's already doing this stuff. It's put on a seatbelt because the floodgates are opening, and I don't think these lunatics really care what ethics, morals, or regulatory agencies are involved, because like I said, in the front door, they can say whatever they want, but in the back room is what you got to care about. Oh, well, they're going to forego funding. Well, you know what? There's lots of rich billionaires out there that we discovered that are funding tons of this research, and it's all about quote-unquote longevity and living forever. And complete corporatocracy, the takeover and ownership of all of life. The agency said in a statement that it was worried about the chances that animals' quote-unquote cognitive state could be altered if they ended up with human brain cells. Oh my God! A reasoning sheep who can have intelligent discussions. In the National Institute of Health Action, the National Institute of Health Action was triggered after it learned that scientists had begun such experiments with support from other funding sources. Well, there you go, including California's State Stem Cell Agency. Now, I really hope that isn't like the California State Agency that's been taking the stem cells from the cord blood from all the newborns. It says the human-animal mixtures are being created by injecting human stem cells into days-old animal embryos and then gestating these in female livestock, just like they did with the cows with the human breast milk gene in China. Based on interviews with 3 teams, 2 in California and 1 in Minnesota, MIT Technology Review estimates that there are about 20 pregnancies of pig-human or sheep-human chimeras that have been established over the last 12 months. Though so far no scientific paper describing the work has been published, and none of the animals were brought to term. The extent of the research was disclosed in part during presentations made at the National Institute of Health's Maryland campus in November at the agency's request. And one researcher, Juan Carlos Ipsusa Belmont of the Salk Institute, showed unpublished data on more than 12 pig embryos containing human cells. Another from the University of Minnesota provided photographs of a 62-day-old pig fetus in which the addition of human cells appears to have reversed a congenital eye defect. The experiments rely on a cutting-edge fusion of technologies, including recent breakthroughs in stem cell biology and gene editing techniques. By modifying genes, scientists can now easily change the DNA in pig or sheep embryos so that they are genetically incapable of forming the specific tissue, meaning the disease tissue. Then by adding stem cells from a person, they hope that the human cells will take over the job of forming the missing organ, which could then be harvested from the animals in a transplant operation. We can create an animal without a heart, and we have engineered pigs that lack skeletal muscles and blood vessels. Oh, my God. Says Daniel Gary, a cardiologist who leads the Chimera Project at the University of Minnesota. While such pigs are not viable, they can develop properly if a few cells are added from a normal pig embryo. He says he's already melded 2 pigs in this way and recently won a $1.4 million grant from the U.S. Army, which funds some biomedical research to try to grow human hearts in swine. And, we're going to finish this tomorrow, and then I have a homework assignment that came from my kid's school about this very thing. All right, guys, well, make sure you stick around. Sorry for the technical problems. Not sure what I'm going to do, but it is Wednesday, and Ms. Lonnie Clark is live up next. And then we have at 6 o'clock, Josh, and at 8 o'clock, Continue Condition, Boys from New York, 9, Truth to Talk, and at 11, Answer Media Radio with Nick and DB. All right, guys, have an awesome Wednesday.